Something that I find interesting the more I talk to people is, I was just in North Dakota, and the Native Americans, it's, Mini Wachoni and water is life. But a lot of people, I think, are starting to feel like water is death here.
That's actually pretty true. I mean, the fact that if I run my sink and I see steam come out because I switched it over to hot and didn't even realize it, and you back up away from it, that's not right. That's wrong. But steam, you can inhale all these contaminants. You can inhale the bacteria, all the cancer-causing byproducts, the chloroform, the things that are not supposed to be in your water. You can inhale them, and they can be absorbed through your skin. So showers are a nightmare. When my kids are off, I let them go without bathing for a couple days. They're teenagers, so it doesn't last that long before I can't, just keep hitting them with Febreze. But because, again, and we have a sign on our wall, no hot showers, less than 10 minutes, and in and out. Window must be open and exhaust fan on. And yeah, I mean, it's bad. I miss taking a bath. It's ridiculous. It's like a simple thing. Especially with the osteoarthritis I've got now and all the bone spurs, all I want to do is just sit in the tub. And there is no way that that's happening. No, I mean, first of all, my bath water still turns blue, which we don't even know what chemical that is. It could be copper, could be chloroform. We don't know. But also, I can't even take a shower without my skin itching. So, and my hair falling out, and my hair changing color. So I'm not going to soak in that. And people are just like, they don't know what to do. Do we soak in the tub, or do we stay in the shower and inhale this? How do we keep our kids safe? And then they're going to take away the bottled water, which is how you should bathe babies because of the rashes and because babies play with their hands. And they sent out this ridiculous flyer, the Department of Health and Human Services in Michigan, that had two little babies, a white baby and a black baby, and they're sitting in tubs saying, oh, kids, it's safe to bathe. And they're like, but don't let your kids drink the water because yuck. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, this is what we're dealing with. It was some of the most ignorant things I've ever seen put out by an agency, but it continued. So they tried to blame us for the Shigella outbreak over the summer, the bacterial outbreak. They tried to say it's because people weren't washing their hands. And then the CDC said, no, that wasn't what it's from. It was a bacterial outbreak. It happens, but they also didn't test the water, so we don't know how it happened. And so there's too many unanswered questions, but also too many times they try to point us out like we're stupid. We're just dumb. We put ourselves in this situation. I have people ask me all the time, oh, well, if it's so bad there, why don't you move? And I always say, buy my house. Come buy my house, pay off my mortgage, because I can tell you it's not going to appraise for what it used to, because poison water doesn't up the resale value. And I, in good conscience, could not sell my house to another family knowing what it's done to mine. And if we move, they win. So we don't move.
You just said poison water doesn't up the retail value. And you said it so calmly. And I think that's what's being lost here, that like what's supposed to not be normal, what 20, 30 years ago would have been an epic catastrophe. Now this is becoming the new normal, so that you could just, you're so numb to it that you just say something like that, like poison water is, won't up the retail. I want to think bigger picture here and tell me if I'm hot or cold. But how I see this is basically Flint is a microcosm for many other areas in the country, but government policy, Republican, neoliberal, corporate hackery, essentially took a demolition to Flint. Trade deals, de-investment, closing down auto plants, all these plants. And then, so they basically destroy the working class. They make the city more poor. That elevates crime and all these other things. Then they give tax breaks to wealthy people and wealthy corporations, wealthy people. That's Snyder, that's other Republicans before him. Then, oh my Lord, we have such a big debt and deficit. We gotta cut schools. We gotta cut police. They've cut here. All this. We have to change to the Flint water, which in reality was really a road to privatization, which we'll get to. And then by doing that, we poison the people. We're not actually going to fix it. We're not going to invest in new infrastructure, new core pipes, any of that stuff. And then when people don't pay the water bill for the poison, we're going to try to evict them, really in an effort to gentrify. Am I close?
You are on fire. I hope you're okay. I hope you recover from this. I'm actually impressed by how well you get this. I shouldn't be impressed, but I am. No, it's 100% correct. All of it's privatization. They did it to Detroit and Flint. When they took Flint, Detroit's largest customer, off of Detroit, it basically leveled both cities. One, we happened to get poisoned. They're working on it because they've also shut off 50,000 residents in Detroit, block by block, to get them out for Detroit future cities. If you look at the Flint master plan, yeah, same thing. If you look at this, there's lots of rolling green spaces and parks, but people live there right now. So how do you got to get these people out? What's the one thing everybody needs to live? water. So you raise the rates up so high that people can't afford it, to where the poorest areas pay the highest levels of ridiculous bills. I mean, when I tell people that one of our bills was like over $500 for a month, they're just like in shock. Right up the block from my house, they pay about $40 to $50 a month. They pay every 3 months. My latest bill, I think, was $217, and we don't use our water.
I was about to say, though, and it's a dumb question, but I think people don't understand, like, what is the water bill for? Most people are not using the water.
So we basically pay about $200 a month. Well, we don't pay it. We are getting billed for about $200 a month for flushing our toilet, the 5 of us showering almost every day, and, running the dishwasher 4 times a week. Yeah, because we can't do laundry here. The water smells up our clothes and tears up our clothes so badly. I can't send my kids to school with their school uniforms. I have 3 sons. I don't want to smell like open sewer when they go to school.
Well, the person I interviewed over the summer, Laura McIntyre, her washer broke.
We had that twice. We've gone through 2 washing machines, 2 dishwashers, 3 water heaters, 1 caught on fire, and not to mention, like, the pipes are falling apart in our wall, so they're corroding. The little flange that you go to just fell out. Just fell out completely red. Ooh, and our garbage disposal corroded and exploded underneath the sink, and it was not even 2 years old. Our water heaters, we went back to back to back with them, and they're telling us everything's fine. So we have to spend $40 a week to go do laundry at a laundromat outside of town, so that way we can have clean clothes, because we cannot wash them here. And yeah, I don't want to smell, and we're on our 2nd washer motor, so I can't afford to keep replacing this because nobody's helping me with any of that. So I think the $160 a month I'm paying for laundry, going to laundromat, plus my time, that's 4 hours of time sitting there, is worth what they are charging me for my water bill. Now, I got a shut-off notice. We'll see. I mean, again, I have this fear like everybody else. We would love everybody just not pay their bills. But then there's that underlying fear of, oh my God, what if they take my home? What if they take my kids? What if Child Protective Services is called in? How do we do this? Because people who did have their water shut off, they were putting snow in their water heaters, which is not safe. They were putting bottled water in the backs of their toilets so at least they can have the flushing toilets. And I'm just like, this is first world country. Child Protective Services gets called in if you do not, to do a check, if you do not have access to running water, because that could be considered endangering the child.
Where is Child Protective Service when you do have access to water, but it could screw up your kids' growth plates? Laura's kids have bloody noses. I mean, I could go house to house with a different horror story. So Child Protective Services will come in if you don't have access to the poisoned water. When you do, it's just an average Tuesday.
It's just the way that it is. So somebody should call CPS on Snyder. So, and all the government officials that are making this go through our pipes, they honestly need to shut off the water and just rip these pipes out. I mean, seriously, it's not an easy fix. I get it. It's going to cost money, and ooh, who wants to spend money on Flint, right? Well, you have to because you broke it. So there's that.
But there's a bigger story here. And I'm going to keep it real, and I told all the African Americans I interviewed, if this was in L.A., if this was in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, at this point, 3 years after, you would have been evacuated by now. Yep. Airlifted. Oh. It would have been all over CNN. Here, you're getting shut-off notices. Basically, you could be evicted. Mm-hmm. I don't even know, like, all this money you're talking about that you're spending, I don't know how you save for college or anything like that down the road.
We can't. Our savings is just shredded. We were hoping to refinance the house and get a better deal on our mortgage. Yeah, that's not going to happen because you know what you have to do? Show your lead test, your water test to be able to refinance your house. I talked to a realtor a couple days ago and it's still going on. I'm like, okay, so I'll just stick with these higher payments. That's cool because the house isn't worth it anymore. It's not going to appraise for what we owe on it. Fine. I guess we won't be pulling out any of that equity that we thought we were going to be building up since we bought the house in 2009, February of 2009. So it's about a minute. And yeah, here we are. They want us out. Once we're all out, the poor people and the minorities and everybody that's just a bother here in Flint, once they get it out, I'm sure then they'll redo the infrastructure, or they'll just farm the contracts out to all these developers that are buying up property all across the city, and they can do it themselves. So they'll let them independently rebuild up what they want to do. But most of it's going to be green space and parks, which is so nice. But again, human beings need a place to live.
The goal really is essentially to be so unresponsive, so irresponsible that you just drive all the low-income black people, poorer white people out, and then gentrify, redo the whole infrastructure, and boom, rows of townhouses, and beautify it like they did 10 blocks in Detroit that I recently saw.
Absolutely. And it's been the plan for Detroit and Flint and coming to a city near you. But absolutely, they want us out because they're not going to do anything. I mean, the thing is all these fixes and these helps, they're like the worst wet Band-Aids on a gaping, bleeding wound. The healthcare, expanded healthcare, covers kids 20 and under, or unless you're pregnant, doesn't cover senior citizens, doesn't cover older children, and they don't even like care about the adults. They're just like, oh, you'll be fine. And the reason they say that is because studies are only done for lead for kids 6 and under. And they're like, well, we know this is bad, so that's bad. But they're, again, not talking about anything else. They're not talking about all the other contaminants in the water. And as time goes by, pipes don't heal themselves. Holes don't close themselves up. The pipes don't get better. They're not healing or whatever crazy theory that they want to say. And so what they're doing is like, well, we'll take care of you, well, the little ones after you get sick, but we're not going to do anything to prevent you from getting further sick. Just, you know, take away your one line of defense. Come January 10th, they're going to take away our bottled water. That's the plan if we don't do something about it. But if they're expecting us just to sit back and take it because we are traumatized, we are sick, we are tired. But again, I think they're underestimating the Flint residents because we're not done fighting and we're not going to stop fighting. And we can't, because we're not going to accept the fact that our water's better when it's tearing up our skin. We're not going to accept the fact that they're sitting here on this money. Speaking of money, our governor is an accountant, right? You know, supposed to be really good at numbers. At the beginning of last year, at his State of the State address, he said he had like $500 million surplus. Things were so good. Plus this rainy day fund that was over $500,000 or $500 million. So we had all this money, almost $1 billion. And then as soon as Flint came out and said, we need you to fix what you broke, oh, it's a miscalculation come April. Yeah, the numbers were wrong. We don't have that money. He's an accountant. How did you do that? And if you want to talk politics, that's a failed businessman. These people, I didn't vote for him, put in a failed businessman to run our state, to run government like a business. And guess who everybody just elected as president? A businessman that's filed bankruptcy numerous times to run government like a business. And I told people, look at the correlations. It's the same policies. So now the whole rest of the country gets to, you know, see what it's like to live in Michigan, where you're not going to have democracy. You're not going to have the services that your taxes should be paying for. And goodbye to schools, police, firemen, and clean water.
Speaking of lack of democracy, I think a lot of people don't understand the emergency manager and essentially that they are not elected positions. And in most cases, they are coming in, but they are creating the emergency. Can you kind of explain how that played a part here?
Sure. So when Governor Snyder decided to suspend revenue sharing, which is basically all the cities put in money into this big pot, tax money, and then they go to the most hit areas, which would be Detroit and Flint. Well, Governor Snyder suspended that, and he's like, oh my goodness, I don't know how it is that you guys now have a bill problem. How are you having a budget problem? I took away your money, but you're having a budget problem. So I'm going to put this one person who is unelected, I'm going to appoint him myself. He only answers to me and the treasurer's office, and he's going to come in and run your city. Now, the premise is nice. Okay, he's going to help balance the budget. But instead, they come in and they can destroy everything. They can do everything. They can break collective bargaining agreements. They can switch your water source, even though they're not water experts. They're supposed to just be financial managers. But they can also tell your city council what they can and can't do. And they take away the voice of your elected officials, your local elected officials. So, for example, this unelected official appointed by Governor Snyder sat in on a city council vote where they voted unanimously March of 2015 to get off the Flint River and go back to Detroit, because obviously we were proving at that time the water's poison and people are sick. The emergency manager said, inconceivable. It's too expensive. Done. He overturned our city council, who never votes unanimously on anything, and just overturned it. Also, they don't live here. These unelected people that are making these decisions for us and about us, but not with us, don't live here, don't care. We got in his face. We got in Jerry Ambrose's face. We even asked early, why is this happening? Why are people sick? Why did Darnell Early allow General Motors to switch off of the Flint River because it was corroding their car parts, but yet people couldn't get off the Flint River? And he said it's apples and oranges. So people versus engine parts, you know.
Oh, it's money versus humans.
Absolutely. And as humans, we don't seem to matter unless you got a big fat bank account. So they look at us like our value is what's in our bank account. And for most of us here in Flint, 41% at or below the poverty line because of what industry and these kind of politics have done to us. We don't matter. We don't matter. And they've made that quite clear. And it's still being done. When we're like, replace the pipes, give us money. And the worst part, speaking of money, the federal funds, we have $100 million coming in for infrastructure. It has to go through the state first. So most of us here are like, We're not going to see that now, are we? Because right now the state government has pledged $25 million. So $5 million at a pop is going to the Mott Foundation, not to the city, to the Mott Foundation to pay for infrastructure. But the governor put in a new law this year that we have to be 70% active. So 70% of residents have to be active in paying their water bills. Otherwise, they're not going to send any more infrastructure money. How about that? You want to pit the poor people against it? Rich Baird, a town hall. He is he's Governor Snyder's right-hand man. He's supposed to be, I'm a Flintstone. I'm originally from Flint. And we're like, no, you're not, whatever. He set up and said, 2/3 of you aren't paying your water bill. How does the other 1/3 of you feel paying those higher rates because the 2/3 of the people aren't? So you want to pit the poor people against the poor? There you go. So that's been the whole thing right there. So whether you're standing up for yourself saying, I'm not going to pay for this poison because it's killing my family and destroying my home, or you can't afford these giant water bills, yeah, it's your fault that we're not going to get any more infrastructure money and that other people are paying higher rates.
So it's classic blame the victim.
The victim the entire time. Again, with the Shigella, they were saying that people were too dumb and dirty to wash their hands. Wash your hands so you don't know. That's not even where it came from. And then with the lead, oh, well, the people should have realized something was wrong sooner. Oh, I want
to ask a broader question. You know, we could blame everybody, but, you know, when you look, all the media is doing their puff pieces on Obama now, you know, his legacy and Obama's legacy. You just had a campaign, you know, these ridiculous platitudes, we're stronger together and make America great and la, la, la. Seems to me that Flint is pretty much the guinea pig for dictatorship, for transparent corruption, and pretty much, call me radical, but ethnic cleansing.
No, that's about it. And he came here. The president came here. I pulled my kids out of school. We were so excited. I'm like, oh, dear God, let this be the day that we get the disaster declaration. Please take this control away from the state. Please help us. And so my boys were standing there, and by the time he started speaking, my youngest was sitting on the floor because his back hurt and his joints hurt, so he had to sit. And when he got up there and said that everything's fine, he took a drink of that water, and he said, you guys, it's going to be good. I ate paint chips as a kid, probably. Wonderful. Good for you. I rode around without a seatbelt. There's laws because people died. That's not even a good analogy. And for him to say that he's relying on his scientists, which is the EPA, relying on the state who lied about all of this science, he's going to rely on them. And they're saying that the water's getting better. So he decides to say that get your kids tested. Get them the educational and medical support they need and they'll be just fine. My youngest looked up at me with tears in his eyes. He's like, Mom, why is the president telling me that I'm going to be just fine, but I hurt? Why am I not fine, Mom? And my 13-year-old looked at me and he goes, Mom, why is the president lying to us? And I'm like, and I'm done. I'm done. I mean, he abandoned us. He could have come in here and said, you know what, Governor Snyder, this is insane. This is not the way that American residents should be treated. People live here, they pay taxes, they work really hard, and you are completely ignoring the fact that this city is being, you're killing them. You're killing these people. And no, instead it was a little cheerleader speech and back up on the plane and gone. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they wonder, and people wonder why, you know, residents are mad at the EPA and mad at this and mad at the government. Because all these people, all these levels of federal government are the people we ran to because our state government was killing us. And nobody has stepped in to stop it. Nobody has stepped in to give us our democracy back. Nobody has stepped in to say, we're going to get you clean water. We're going to get the, you know, Army Corps of Engineers. We're going to give money to the plumbers unions who have said, we can get 1,000 plumbers in here, work 24/7, and get these pipes fixed in 2 or so years. They have the solution, but yet we still have unemployed licensed plumbers in the middle of a water crisis because they just won't send the money. And the fact that they fought over it, and you've got like Senator Mike Lee saying, oh, it's a state problem. We shouldn't spend federal money on it. But boy, did they send $500 million to Louisiana when they had their floods, because that's a Republican area. So lucky them. It's unfortunate that we're Democrats, and I guess we just don't count.
Well, you know, Mr. Family Values himself, Ted Cruz, was one of the senators when he was running for president to block Flint aid, but when Texas had a flood, I think it was, oh no, we need that money right away.
We need that money now. Those people, they didn't see this flood coming. They didn't know this was coming. We didn't know the poisoning was coming. We didn't know that that glass of water that looked clear and fine was potentially killing our family members. We didn't know this. We didn't cause this. And they say, well, it's a man-made disaster. Well, technically, so was Katrina. They didn't update the levees. So how about that? We know they didn't update and they didn't treat our water safe. You tell the Flint residents that it makes a huge difference on who caused their disaster. It doesn't matter. We are still drinking bottled water. We are still being lied to, and we're still sick.
But the reason they didn't declare the disaster in reality was over money.
Money. They didn't want to send money to us. Everybody else gets money. And again, if you need it, fine. We're not angry at those people. We're not. But we're just sitting here like we've had our hand up in the back of the classroom saying, hey, we're dying, please help us, for over 2 years now.
And basically the teacher said, stop dying.
Yeah, stop dying. You're dying loudly and you're interrupting the class.